Hello! Hey, works out better. I was saying I did it once before and I had fun, so I'll try it again. But I did exactly what I did last time, which is I waited till now to think of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be the first one to make this joke. In hindsight, I should have planned this better. Now, none of y'all get to say that. I knew it was going to happen. Alright, hindsight. Hindsight's a funny thing. We're all going to tell funny stories about what we should have done the one time. But I think hindsight's funny in that we need to learn something from it. It has to be, we have to take something away, otherwise what's the point? Now hindsight it comes in all different sizes. There can be little things, like, for example, every time I go to Taco Bell, I say, never again. It's a lesson that I think I'll learn. I say, Murph, we're never going there again. But what do I do next week? I'm there, because that's how we do things. Then it can be a little bigger. There can be more important things. You can say, for example, man, I probably should have handed that ball to the best running back in the league instead of throwing it second and one. Yeah, I did it. It can be a little bigger even. It can be, man, I probably should have listened to Colin Powell in the UN before we went to that country, you know what I mean? There can be a few different things. They can go in scale. There can be little things and bigger things. But what's important is that we take something away from it. If we don't learn a lesson, then why are we even thinking about it? Why have the hindsight? And I'll give you a great example from my life that I can remember. I was stationed in Okinawa a few years back, from 05 to 09, I'll say. And when you're out there, the only thing to do is ocean stuff. I got into cliff diving, free diving, snorkeling, all that kind of thing. My favorite was snorkeling. I love to go out there on the weekend. Usually you bring somebody, it's a safety kind of thing, but sometimes you don't. And I went to my favorite spot was called Maida Point. It's famous for having all these caves that go into the reef. When the tides come up and down, you can get in there. And this one time I was alone. It was a dumb thing to do in hindsight, but that's not even the worst one. I was exploring around. I was going down the shelf, and I found this one little tunnel that went in. And I looked in there. I could barely see. The water was up to about right here, and the rock came right about this. And it went all the way in, and I thought I saw the glow, the reflection of the water way in there. So I said, hey, there's a cave. And I went on in there. So I'm swimming through about here, and the rock's here. And I go in a little ways. It wasn't that far of a tunnel, maybe 30, 40 feet, something like that. And I get in, and I find this just beautiful, this cavern, this rock cavern. It's all made out of the sea rock, I don't know what you call that, the cliff rock, the volcanic-looking stuff. It's really sharp, you know what I mean? And in there's this one rock in the middle, and all this beautiful stuff, all the urchins on the one side, all the colorful stuff, full of fish and all that. And I said, wow, this is a wonderful place. And I'm sitting in there, I'm going down, I'm going back up, I'm sitting around, and I hang out in this place for maybe an hour, because it's pretty wide. I've actually got the little camera piece, so I'm taking a lot of photos. And I say, all right, it's getting kind of late, I should head back to the thing. And I turn around to go back toward the tunnel that I came in on. And this was kind of late in the afternoon, it was about 5 o'clock. The tunnel had filled in. Yeah, because I paid no attention, that was super dumb of me. I'm supposed to have somebody. The tunnel filled in, and I said, oh man, well, it can't be that bad. So I went back to what is the lowest point, the point with the highest ceiling in the rock. And it was still about here. Water was it was a little higher on me now. I was floating about here, and the ceiling was about here. And time went a little past, and it started to rise up a little. And as soon as it got where the waves were hitting on me, and I was poking the ceiling, I started to get pretty afraid. This was a really deadly thing. We lose guys out there all the time. It happens every now and then. You're really supposed to bring a buddy for these safety kind of things, hindsight, etc. But so anybody knows anything about tides, they go in about 6-hour cycles. So I spent the worst 4 hours or so of my life in this cave, terrified that I wasn't going to make it out. I was doing this number. I had a hand right here. And I said, if the water gets to here, I'm going to have to make the swim for it. I'm going to have to try to clear the tunnel. I probably had about a 50-50 shot, but I really didn't want to make that swim. It was sketchy. So it sat right about here, and I sat there just, oh man. It's dark now, by the way. It filled in, so now I can't see anything. So I'm just, oh. And eventually, it comes back down here, comes back down here, and I go, oh. And I just float for a little while until the whole, and I get back out and I get out of there. And I tell nobody what I did because I'm prideful, you know what I mean? Stupid. I'll try to learn from it maybe, but I'm telling nobody because then I won't be allowed back out there anymore. Years later, that was the reason for the hindsight, and what I've learned from it is this. Years later, fast forward to about 2010, I live in a tiny town called Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, it's bad. If you've ever been there, don't. It's a college town, whatever. Anyway, I'm there, and I'm in this little apartment,
And this is right around the time when jobs were really hard to come by. You remember 09, 2010, that time frame. I was working as a mechanic. I had a second job at a call center, and then that ran out. So I lost that job, and work was slowing on the other job. Money was getting a little tight. Things were coming in on all sides. I had a medical issue that cost me all my money. I was in a rough relationship I lost. And basically, what I learned from the first one, it all started to come back to me. The tide was coming in on me, and I was stuck in this little cave. So I learned my lesson from the first time, and I got out ahead. I packed everything I had in the car, and I moved away. I moved to Pittsburgh, but that's besides the point. Another lesson I learned, but that's a different hindsight story. The point is what I took from it, which is what's important in hindsight. I took, when the waves start coming in, when the tide's coming in and you're about to drown, I learned to get out of the cave first. And that's my big lesson that I learned from hindsight there.